Welcome to Access Hollywood's reality nightcap, where we are going to break down season 3 of The Traitors.
Starting with episode 5, which was a juicy one. We started with Rob spearheading the banishment of Bob the drag queen, his fellow traitor. Moving on to a really interesting mission where Danielle made a move I was shocked by, and then leading to a banishment that really was emotional.
There's so much drama. There is so much betrayal. We have so much to talk about. But guys, I'm Lauren. I work here at Access Hollywood, and I am a huge Bravo-holic. I love the drama of it, and you love the analytical side of it.
Yeah, I love all things social strategy. Huge Big Brother and Survivor fan. So I can't wait to just dive into everything that's going on this season, starting with Bob leaving us, with Rob directing it.
Okay.
Bob versus Rob.
Wait, Bob versus Rob. I needed to ask you this because I did not watch Survivor, but the lure of Boston Rob is real.
Do you have any questions? I would love to.
Wait, I have so many questions though, because like he comes in with his backwards hat and I'm like, who is this man? Turns out he is like one of the best players of Survivor of all time.
Oh, for sure. Definitely on the Mount Rushmore. He's been in the game 6 times, played 5, won once. It was his 4th time that he won. But definitely a legend and known as someone who's the master manipulator and willing to backstab people who trust him.
Which obvious is the case. He comes on in and he completely and utterly backstabs our Bob.
What did you think about that move? Did you think it was like merited? Do you think it was smart? Or do you think it was not the right choice?
I think it was smart. I don't know. Because he definitely needed to turn and he did it quickly, but I also think now we see there's some back fall from it, and people know, I think, people know that he is this icon. We have Dylan like fawning over him, which we won't get into that, okay? But I think, I just thought it was interesting that he comes in as a traitor and he takes another traitor out. So now, of course, you're going to have the other 2 traitors being like, oh my God, we need to get him out of here.
There's going to be ramifications, especially with Danielle and Carolyn. How do you make them not go after you now?
Right.
So that's what he's going to have to navigate going into this week. He goes back up to the turret and tries to make amends and say, I was only going after Bob because
he was coming after me, which also didn't really make that much sense.
I think eyes are going to come on Rob because he was part of that trio that entered the game in the cages. Right. And Bob reminding people of that after the mission, I think that that's going to come to bite Rob at some point.
My question for you, was that an ego thing? Because you also saw that he was like, I'm not going to come for Danielle or Carolyn if they don't come for me. So was it like an ego play?
I love that Carolyn said that. Like my jaw dropped when she said that, because I think that is really part of it. It certainly is true, but I also think it's a strategy thing because Boston Rob wants to surround himself with people who are going to go along with what he wants. Bob is not going to fall in line with Rob, so Rob wants to make sure that
he has minions.
He has control. Exactly. That's what we see Danielle kind of doing, like, oh, whatever you think about who we should murder, but in her mind, she's going to
play him.
Exactly.
It's all about manipulation, this game, all about manipulation. But it was interesting, though, because then we get into who are they going to murder. He wanted to kill Robin because he thinks that will cause chaos amongst the house because all the housewives are, like, intertwined. I don't really agree with that, but, whatever.
But then they also bring up, we could also do Sam or Gabby.
I mean, Gabby, maybe because she has more of like a little group amongst her. Sam is just there. I mean, I don't understand him. I want more Brittany tea. He's not going to give us Brittany tea, but that's what I want from him. And he's just there, and all those shots in the shower. I'm sorry, what are we doing? We don't need that. Alan, I'm looking at you. We don't need it. We go into breakfast. And we find out that, yes, Robin was killed. And it wasn't the chaos I think Rob wanted, right?
Yeah.
It didn't. I think people were sad, of course, but, like, no one really was like, oh, my God, it's Robin.
With a murder, you can get people, like, distracted and, like, thinking in a new direction. But I think everyone was really thinking about what happened last night still.
Right.
Like, you see Ivar whispering about what Wes said.
Right.
And eyes are still on Rob.
But also, before we move away from breakfast, can I just tell you my obsession with Dylan? And he is now obsessed with Boston Rob, which then made me obsessed with Boston Rob.
Did you notice he was wearing a backwards hat?
Yes! Who is this cutie Bambi-eyed man? Oh my gosh.
I love Dylan. I do think, and many many players have done this before, kind of fall into like the Boston Rob charisma.
Yes.
If Boston Rob is like, I trust your idea that Bob the drag queen is a traitor, and I'm going to like voice it and give you a voice to what you believe.
He's pulling Dylan in.
What he said about, I think that I can make Dylan my ally and bring him to the end and then cut him, like that very well could happen. So after breakfast, Ivar goes to Rob and tells him about Wes's idea from last night, which I was surprised by.
Real quick, not to interject you, who is this man?
The random royal?
Yes.
I love our random royal.
A random royal? Who are you going to spill the tea? Same with Sam Asghari. Like, start spilling the tea, people. Okay, go on. Sorry.
I would love a little bit of royal gossip mixed into this show. But I think that he drops that to Boston Rob to see how he'll react. And of course, Rob, now he has like a little step ahead because he knows that Wes said this. And when he brings it to Wes, Wes is kind of like on the defensive and trying to figure out what to do. I feel like Wes like kind of did a good job navigating it.
I do.
But it was kind of one of those game recognized game moments. They see each other and one of them is like gonna go down at the hands of the other at this point.
So interesting. Okay, so let's move on to the challenge of it all. Real fast, I need to bring up Tom Sandoval because we have not talked about him.
Tom, do not linger.
And the fact that he brought up that he was channeling Tom Riddle vibes, because, and if you don't know, Tom Riddle is Voldemort. The way that this man drives me bananas, and like the way that he also thinks he's so cool. And I'm sorry, if you guys like think I'm throwing shade at him, I am. Go watch Vanderpump Rules. I have every right to. But like, Tom Riddle, what?
I kind of love Tom as like our little sweaty comic relief. Like he's always doing something interesting. He's read a couple Dan Brown books. He's definitely gonna crack this case.
He's always looking around, like his beady eyes.
Speaking of Tom, he comes into play when Danielle gets the turn to go up.
Yes.
And it's Tom and Derek who are up for the shield. She decides not to put herself up, but to put Dolores up and take down Derek, which is mind-boggling for a lot of different reasons. I can see the kind of like social play of wanting to like bring Dolores in.
Right.
But I'm worried that it's a little obvious. And she takes down Derek, who she has a Big Brother connection with. They're from the same franchise.
And you'd think that they would be together instead of like her picking Tom over him.
So her making a lot of decisions that might not make sense in the eyes of everyone else is going to put attention on her and eyeballs on her. Like, what are her motivations? Does she want the shield? If even Dolores is saying, why aren't you protecting yourself?
And can I just tell you, do not mess with Dolores. Her antennas are going to be up after this.
What do you think of Dolores as the last housewife standing?
She's going to go far. Dolo is a smart woman. She is so smart. I think she was smart about being quiet. She's just how we saw with Dorinda. Dorinda was too loud that first episode. She came in too fiery. We love Dorinda. Dorinda, peace and blessings. Love you. But she was too loud. Dolores has been quiet, and she's going to start getting real fiery soon. But she's earning people's trust, just how like Danielle. Why would Danielle pick her? But that was so silly on Danielle's part. And she realized that. She realized, she's like, what did I just do? She started like fake crying a little bit, crocodile tears at the end. I think people are seeing through that, but not enough yet. But I think people will come back to this moment.
So the way that she tries to get herself out of this hole is in the car by throwing suspicion on Carolyn. Of all people.
Of all people. Which remember, she also did that at breakfast with Dylan too. So she's planting seeds, but this seed was very planted. If that even makes sense. She throws her under the bus. Was that the right decision?
I love Danielle. In season 3 of Big Brother, she's just great. She's one of the best to never win. But this, honestly, it made me cringe. It was really tough to watch. I think that she's trying to repeat the playbook of Boston Rob, like,
you can't
yesterday.
You can't do it.
By sacrificing someone. And whereas, like, Bob the Drag Queen did have some sus on him, like, people had already thrown out his name.
But no one is looking at Carolyn.
By immediately announcing that you have a new target, right after you kind of made a mistake and everyone noticed, I think that people are going to see through that.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt your game and it's going to hurt Carolyn's game when you two could have been allies to take out Boston Rob. But I think that she thinks that she needs to pull a rabbit out of a hat to save herself. I don't think that it's going to be successful, but we're going to have to see.
We'll have to see, because that leads us into the roundtable.
First, Ivar starts and he basically gives the floor to Rob to say, hey, defend yourself after what happened last week? Like, were you pointing fingers at Bob because you knew he was a traitor? Because the only way you can know is if you are one.
If you were, yes.
How did you think that he navigated that?
I mean, man, is this man a manipulator? Like, I think he did a pretty good job of turning the tables back away from him, right? He did it well enough where no one voted for him.
He stayed really calm and in control, but you can tell that like a lot of people, like Bob Harper, are bringing up good points. And I think that this is going to linger past this week.
It's fully going to linger past.
I think he's on borrowed time at this point.
So then we have Chrishell, and she speaks up, and she just says, listen, Nikki, you are my girl, we're having fun here, but the way that you reacted in the car when Boston Rob said, Bob, the drag queen, said your name is a traitor.
Which was a lie.
Which was a lie, and she was shocked by it. It sent icy chills down Chrishell's arms or whatever she said, and that makes her think that she's a traitor. I think that's silly. I think that was a really silly, conclusion from Chrishell, but I know Nikki's people were already kind of talking about Nikki, but everyone listened.
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily would have gone Nikki's way if Chrishell hadn't said that. I think Nikki dropping her jaw when Rob said that in the car is probably just surprised because she was close to Bob and couldn't imagine Bob throwing her under the bus. It didn't have to mean like, oh, a traitor would betray me.
Yeah.
Especially when the traitor who betrayed Bob was in the car with her.
The drama. So everyone ended up voting for Nikki except for Dylan. Dylan pulled a fast one and voted for Gabby. I was like, what is happening, Dylan? I don't know where that came from.
I'm enjoying watching Dylan, and I'm excited to see where he goes. I think it's
really
so
hope
funny
he
that
becomes
he's
a traitor.
Really like individually close with Boston Rob, Carolyn, and Danielle. Like, how did he find friendship with all three of them?
He's giving Pilot Pete again, don't you think?
I hope he has his moment where he can like pull something out for the faithfuls.
Yes.
But right now, faithful MVP for me has got to be Wes.
Oh, okay. I can see that. I think my MVP is still Dylan because I just enjoy watching him, but like whatever. But Nikki is sent home.
Chrishell is upset. All the Bambis.
She is a faithful.
Sierra's upset. Dolores is upset. And they're like, people are playing us against each other. We have to stick together. I think we could see like a girls' alliance like going forward.
I agree. But there's a very telling conversation right at the end with our man Dylan and Carolyn. And Dylan reveals to Carolyn that Danielle is telling people that you are a traitor. And oh my gosh, I think all hell is going to break loose in the turret. Was it called? Turret? Because now they're going to go to the turret, and I mean...
What would you do if you were Carolyn? Do you, like, shut your mouth? Because that information is power, and you could, like, try to, like, gather people against her.
I would do that, but I don't think she will. I see her going into the turret and being like, what the hell? Or... Yeah, no, I do, because I think she's reactive. Like, she's a very reactive person is what I'm gathering. I didn't watch her on Survivor, but was she a Survivor?
Yes, and I think that she's smarter than she looks. I think a lot of people underestimate her just because she's kind of zany, but I hope that she can use this as a moment and either, get Danielle or like bring in Danielle and get Rob, or just find some other path out of this because she's really in a tough spot right now.
She is.
And not because of her own doing, but because of like the chain reaction of all the other traitors before her.
Next week is going to be a crazy episode because we have to get through that before they even decide to murder someone. I don't know. I am seated for this season of The Traitors.
This is going to be so good. I cannot wait to talk about it with you guys next time.